Hello again, friends. This is Mike. Today I want to share with you a short story, a personal one, but it's another orb story, if you will, that I think you'll find interesting. It was unusual for me as many times as I've talked about orbs, but I think you'll find it interesting. Here we go. Hello again, friends and fellow truth seekers. Mike Nicholas here with another episode of the Soul Unleashed podcast, where it's my goal to help you with questions you might have regarding the awakening of your soul, and particularly to help other left brain types, like I think I am, ask the right questions in our search for a deeper meaning to life. Ultimately, I want to help you unleash your soul from limiting beliefs and smothering paradigms. So let's get started with today's discussion. Last week I was at a seminar. If you listened to my last podcast, which was last week, I talked about RootsTech 2024, and it's a genealogical conference I attended. Awesome experience, had a great time, met some really wonderful people, but something happened there that was not related to genealogy, and it happened when I was talking with a young woman that I'd met there as part of breakfast. We were having breakfast, and she's a professional genealogist. We were talking about genealogy, and eventually turned to spiritual topics. And I forget how we got there, but, people ask what I do, and I explain about the podcast and the book, and, our son, we lost our son, and my wife being still in the hospital and everything. And I explained to this woman about an experience that I'd had with a medium. Her name was Priscilla Kersey. For those of you that listen to my podcast, if you want to go back, podcast number 33 that I did probably 2 years ago. But number 33 talks about the orbs, how they came into our life, how we tested them. I tested them, trying to figure out whether or not they were bogus or valid or what the heck orbs were. I didn't even know what orbs were when we first started seeing them. And what I did as a left-brainer type to try and figure out, how accurate they were, how they worked, all that kind of stuff. So I don't want to go through all that again, but that's podcast number 33. And so I have many, many videos of orbs that our security cameras at home alert on, or I can look at them deliberately, turn the camera on at night using infrared light, and sometimes I'll see these orbs. When they first started back in 2020, 2021, we would see 1, 10, 20, 50, 100 orbs at a time. Nowadays, I might see one or two if I'm looking for them, but the message that the orbs were, that they brought to me, I think, was to do what I'm doing, which is the podcast and the book, and that was the spiritual awakening part that happened to me and caused the whole Soul Unleashed experience or journey that I'm on. So I'm less focused on the orbs now and figuring out what they are than I am on the purpose of them, but what happened was unusual last week. So I was talking to this very nice woman and explaining to her about this episode or this session I had with Priscilla Kersey, this medium. And this session, I think, took place in 2021, maybe. I'm not sure the exact time, but it was a FaceTime session. And Priscilla, the medium, was Matt had come through and was talking with me and giving me messages through her. And at one point, she started to describe something to me that she didn't quite understand. And I knew she was describing that she was getting these feelings on her face and that he was causing her to feel this very loving touch on her face and her eyes and her eyebrows and her eyes closed and everything. And I knew right away what that was. And what that was me touching his face as he died. When our son Matt was a little boy, 3-4 years old, I used to try and put him down for naps. I worked from home way back then. And I often got to put him down for a nap, and I loved doing that. But he was a sly little sucker and would try to sneak out of the room all the time. And so sometimes I'd fall asleep and he'd sneak out. But if I touched his face this certain way, he usually fell for it and he went to sleep. And that, when he was dying and we took him off life support in March of 2020, that's how I touched his face as he passed. And so the medium, Priscilla, was explaining this to me. I knew exactly what she was telling me, and I was telling this story to this woman at the breakfast table at the genealogical conference. So I kind of knew what the time was as I was talking to her, because there's very specific classes and everything that we're signed up to attend and schedule and all this stuff. I kept checking my watch to make sure that we weren't late for that. But as I finished telling her this story, the phone in my pocket pinged. Now, many of us have different kinds of pings on our phone, right? I have different pings for the cameras that are in my house, that are the Amazon cameras, and how they let me know what's going on or where they see something. And so camera pinged in my pocket, and I figured it was some kids around the back of our house. Sometimes they cut, on the way to school behind the house, and the camera alerts, whatever. And it was at a little bit after 8 o'clock at this place where we were. And so I didn't know exactly what it was, didn't really care. Later, however, when I checked my phone, and I think I checked it when I was actually sitting in the class, the genealogical class I was in, I was stunned, shocked to see that the video looked like some type of bird or insect or something that flew in front of the camera, came right up to the camera, kind of bobbed up and down. It obviously knew where the camera was, and then whipped around the room a little bit and then disappeared. So I knew immediately, I get a sense about these things, having done this for three years now. I knew immediately that it was something unusual, and that it was Matt acknowledging to me that he knew that I was telling the story of his death to this woman. However, my left brain also kicked in and said, look, you can't, I'm going to put this video up on my website. It'll be up at MikeNicholas.com. You can't show this to people without trying to at least explain from a left brainer's perspective that you've checked this thing out. So I wanted to make sure that it wasn't a bug or a bird. It couldn't have been a bird. We lived in this home for 23 years, never had a bird inside or even a moth, but I thought, well, it looks like it might be a moth. Okay. So I checked to see how long moths can live in homes, and it says, well, there's a nectar source inside the home, which we don't have any flowers in the house. I don't have any flowers in the house. If there's a nectar source inside the home, a moth might live for 2 days. And it had already been almost 5 days since I left the house. And so there's no way this could have been a moth that survived for 5 days flying around the house. And then when I got home, I checked around to see if there was any kind of dead bug or insect or bird on the floor. There was nothing I could find. And so I'm convinced you can make your own judgment if you look at this on the website. But I think it was Matt letting me know that he was aware that I had shared his story with this woman, and just letting me know that it was something he was aware of. When we've had sessions with mediums before, this is in my book a little bit, but I talk about how sometimes when I'm talking to a medium, Matt will come through and tell me things that have happened since he passed. For example, he made a comment one time with a medium about his funeral, and that he appreciated a certain person speaking that had spoken at his funeral. And he was right. That person had spoke. He let us know that he was okay with our choice for where to lay him to rest, his final resting spot. At the time, we had just decided that that's where we're going to put him. And then we saw the medium, I think it was with that day, and he came through and said he was fine with that. So he's also commented on my wife's hearing aids, which she got after he passed away. So I've come to believe that our loved ones in spirit do see what's going on, do understand. I think they obviously have a very different perspective from spirit world. They don't worry about whether or not we're what we do so much. Whether we're mean or we're lying or we're doing something that we're ashamed or embarrassed of. They understand all that, and they're beyond all of that. But they want us to know that they love us unconditionally regardless, and that they want to share with us those things that are happening in this life. And to me, that's profound, and makes me feel much better, even though I miss our son, that he's passed. And I feel the same way now about my parents who have passed and close relatives who have passed. I know that they are able to participate and see what's happening in this life, and then I can talk to them. And I do. When I try and meditate, I try and speak with them. So that's what I want to share with you in this podcast is the hope and the understanding that your loved ones are still around, that they may be able to send you signs. There's ways that you can study this or ask them for signs or meditate and talk to them and ask them to let you know that they're still around. I didn't ask for Matt to do this, but that's how he communicates with us, I think, is through the orbs. He started it. I didn't go looking for orbs. They just started showing up. So he started this whole thing. But orbs have always, to this point, been round things that kind of glow and blink on and off sometimes and glide around or zip around. The thing that you'll see in this video, it looks like a dove almost that comes up and flaps in front of the camera and then takes off. So that's what I'll share with you. And that's all I want to let you know, that there is hope. They are still around. They are still participating. They still know what we're doing, and they still participate in our lives and want to be close to us. So that's all for this week. Thank you again for listening. If you have any experiences you want to share, you can reach me at mike@mikenicholas.com. And of course, if you like or share the podcast, that would help me find and reach other people, and I really appreciate it. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.